Davide Ricciardi leads Tony Talviti by 2 points, leading into round 6. It's Suzuka in the RSS GT1 Championship with SimRacingOnline. Broadcast begins now.
Takes a look to the left and he's on the grass, he's in the barrier. I don't think Bali knew that he was going there, and surely this is his chance. Watch this, as he pokes out to the right hand side. Now he's alongside Tony Talviti and he blasts through into the lead of the race.
This battle has literally been going for almost an hour and a half.
It really has.
It's actually quite impressive.
Davide Ricciardi delivers a fantastic performance, crosses the line and wins. That is of the V10 Viper, and the Lamborghini darts back through to the inside. It's a bit of a dive, he's going to go wide on the exit, and up until this point has driven the better race, but he's running wide, and Ricciardi's made another mistake, and he's taken them both off. My goodness! Mietinen out to the final corner, and a truly well-deserved victory. Fantastic! Makes up for last round. Across the line, absolutely brilliant.
And here we go, 90 minutes. At Donington, already 3 wide, approaching turn 1. Brown will go outside. 2 by 2 into Redgate. Brown doesn't see him and hits him. And Ricciardi uses it to his advantage. Ricciardi goes wide! Tries to rejoin, but knows he can't. Gutierrez makes the pass. He's on the last lap. Tony Talviti will hang on with a dominant performance at the front of the field. Still a 12-second gap down to Ricciardi. Verlini's off! I don't believe it! I just go to the checkered flag and I missed the action. Side by side into Lake Como. Oh, this could end in tears, but they make it work. Inside that second place Ferrari. Oh! And a bobble from Ricciardi. Sends the... Oh, and a touch! And Stenson takes the lead but goes around. Oh, and Williams loses the car through Radion. Does he keep it off the wall? He does. With a heroic effort. Loses Hardy is off. The connection problems that were plaguing Ricciardi at the beginning of the race have come back to haunt him. And coming out of the bus stop now, will take a victory in his debut race. Welcome or welcome back. It is round 6 of the GT1 Championship from Suzuka. We have folks settling into practice now. We'll jump into the game here, turn the audio on. Beautiful view from the free camera. We have, I think, 6 or 7 folks signed in now. We had some pretty key withdrawals from the race this morning due to that pesky real-life stuff. But we still have a good talent pool of drivers tonight. So as folks get their practice wrapped up in the last 10 minutes here, we will switch to the driver introductions and get everybody caught up on what has been going on in the championship thus far. Starting off, Davide Ricciardi leads the championship. Defending champion, Davide Ricciardi leads the championship with 168 points. His streak of podium finishes broke last round at Spa when transmission problems of the internet variety brought him to the pits and dropped him to 10th place on the track. Tony Talviti, who suffered a setback in round 2 at VIR, profited from his rival's misfortunes and has closed to within 2 points of the lead in the championship. He'll be trying to continue his own streak of podium finishes here at Suzuka. Gianni Gutierrez is third, only 20 points off the championship lead, so he is still very much in the hunt. He's shown consistent pace and led the race at Donington during the pit cycle, holding on for a 3rd place finish, which he repeated at Spa. John van der Geest is 4th in the points in a Ferrari after finishing as the runner-up in Season 1 in a Lister. He was involved in a Turn 1 incident at Donington that put him last, but came back through the field to finish 6th. He then survived a battle with Laurent Land at Spa in the closing seconds to repeat that performance. Phil Brown is 5th in the points, only 5 points behind van der Geest, and has shown consistent pace in each of the last 4 events. Ian Andrew Williams also gave us one of the more exciting battles in the race at Donington. We'll see if he can improve on his season-best 4th position from Spa. Alberto Bali is 6th in the points despite missing the event at VIR. He began the season with a podium finish at CTMP and has been quietly consistent since then with a string of solid 7th place finishes. Yusuf Majid was 3rd in the points after the first 3 rounds of the championship, but was forced to retire due to real-life commitments. He has since dropped to 7th. Steve Olden has been hovering around 10th on track, but his consistency has lifted him to a tie for 8th in the standings. We will see today if Suzuka brings SRO's own Steve O back into the top 10 on track. Tied with Steve is Rob Milken, whose best finish so far this season was a hard-fought 8th place at Donington, in a tough battle with Vandergeest, Giacomo Verlini, and Nuno Rodriguez. Henri Miettinen has slid to 10th place in the standings, having missed the last 2 rounds. A race-ending disconnection took him out of contention in the opening round at CTMP, but he came back with a strong win at VIR in a thrilling battle against Ricciardi, and followed that with a 4th place at Oschersleben. Giacomo Verlini is the better placed of the 2 Lamborghinis from BritTech Simsport in 11th place. He missed the race at Oschersleben, but has been in some of the most intense battles we've seen in the other rounds. He was denied a comeback performance at Spa due to mechanical and connection issues. Andrew Williams joined the series at Donington and immediately took home a 4th place finish after a race-long battle with Phil Brown. He backed that up with a 5th place at Spa. Pablo Finati has shown lead pack pace in the first 3 rounds, but was hampered by 2 disconnections in the first 2 races, and has not been seen since Oschersleben. Laurent Land has run only 2 races thus far, but the first was a well-earned podium finish at Oschersleben. He faced some frustrations at Spa, however, culminating when his Ferrari ran out of fuel in the closing seconds. Steve Isaacs is 15th in the points, having run only the first 2 races, finishing 9th and 7th. Nuno Rodriguez joined us at Donington and has climbed to 16th in the points on the strength of a 9th and 8th place finish in the last 2 races. Newcomer at Spa, Joachim Steensness burst onto the scene with a win, with those 40 points putting him into 17th place in the championship. If he can keep up that pace, he could still break through into the top 10 in points before the end of the season. Kai Sivertsen has slid to 18th place after skipping the races since the opener at CTMP, where a 2-stop strategy was foiled only in the closing minutes as he spun at the bottom of turn 2. Dean Timms drives the second of the BritTech cars and is tied for 19th place, having run only 2 races at CTMP and Donington. Javier Ugini is the other driver at 19th in the points after finishing in 8th at CTMP but not returning to the series since. Roel Postma finished 10th at Oschersleben but has not returned to the series. He stands at 21st. Andrew Harper has raced only at Donington but survived 90 minutes in an unfamiliar and difficult car to finish in 12th. And rounding out the point scorers from the season thus far is Larry Thomas, whose only appearance resulted in 15th at CTMP. For the broadcast crew of the series, you heard the highlights of Caitlin Penny and Max Shepard at CTMP, and Caitlin went solo in round 2 at VIR. I'm Pasha Paterson, and I've had the pleasure of calling the races since Donington. And if all goes to plan, Caitlin and I will be teaming up to bring you the finale at Laguna Seca in 2 weeks. So that is the state of the championship. We now have only 5 minutes to go in practice. It looks like John Vandergeest leading the leaderboard in practice so far with a 2:01.4. He will be pleased with that. Let's jump into the car here. There he is. Throwing the Ferrari around the track. Tony Telvidi is next. Only a half second back. He's currently sitting in the pits, as is Andrew Williams, who's in third. Davide Ricciardi, the points leader, in fourth place, 1.2 seconds behind Vandergeest. So this, if this is an indication of the pace, once the race begins, this is going to be huge for the championship. Let's see, who else has set a time so far? Johnny Gutierrez, third in the points, only, I think he's 20 points back. He is only a second and a half off the leader in practice. Perhaps still warming up, though. Phil Brown, 6th so far in free practice, just under 2 seconds back. Roberto Bali, 3.5 seconds back, but just getting started. And it looks like Rob Milken is maybe just out for an outlap so far. There's his lister. And he's going out for another lap. Now under, the clock says 18 minutes, but we're now under 5 minutes before we switch to qualifying. Hello, Andrew, and hello, Roll. Why aren't you guys out here on track? Yeah, this is an interesting version of Suzuka. I think it might be better than some of the others that I've seen, but I don't recall where this comes from. Go back to the free camera and see if we can get a good view overhead. Whee! I should have hooked up my controller for this. Unfortunately, no seasonal pack for this, but still looks the part. Oop! Hello, power lines. We are, of course, again enjoying the benefits of Shaders Patch and all the latest track configurations to make it nice and shiny. Apparently, everyone in Japan drives an Audi A3 because that's what the parking lot is full of. Evening, Bill. Let's go back to Vanagis, who is back in the pits. Let's see if we can find somebody who's running. There's Davide Ricciardi. Sitting in 3rd place on the leaderboard in practice. Only half a second off the lead pace. Oh, ho, ho, pushing hard through 130R. I'm not holding anything back here. Gutierrez hot on his heels. Now through the chicane. We'll try out some of the cameras here. This is the only stock camera that comes with the track. And then we have the helicopter cameras supplied by Phoenix, author of the LA Canyons track mod and several camera mods for different tracks in Assetto Corsa. Trouble is, there are like 5 of these, so I need to be careful of when I actually flip back to TV camera. I think I had it and then went past it. Oh well. There we go. TV cam. Caption doesn't quite update effectively. But here we have Ricciardi still working hard. Trying to get a good lap in. Couldn't tell whether he had gone over track limits on this lap or whether he's actually got one that's counting. That's where you left your car, Andrew? Is that what you're driving in real life? That's a pretty good car. Yeah, John is setting the pace so far. If this is the finishing order, then the championship is definitely going to get a good shake. Now, under a minute to go. We should see the session skip into qualifying at any moment. You're already trying to get one more good lap in before the end of the session. Woo-hoo-hoo! Another lurid slide. Not productive for lap times, but certainly is fun. Coming around final corner, and the split shows a 0, so he must have exceeded track limits at some point. And there he goes. Oh, trying to claim your grid spot early there. There we go. It looks like Vandergeest will retain his position in the order unless someone on track can surprise us here in the closing seconds. Here's Andrew Williams coming through 130R. approaching the chicane. Be interested to see if these battles continue. Williams also showing a time of 0, so he must be on a uncounted lap. We'll now go to Brown, also coming down backstretch. I'll be interested to see if Phil Brown's car is still tuned to be as squirrely as it was approaching the hard braking zones in the last 2 races. Looked pretty smooth coming into the chicane there. Also showing no time. Is anybody setting a time right now? Doesn't look like it. So Vandergeest 2:01 looks safe, and there's the skip into qualifying. So here we go. There's my car. That's irrelevant. Who made it out first? It's Ricciardi. Let's go in the car. Give us a good chance to see if the audio is in sync this time. I've switched browsers, hopefully that will help. There are a couple of things I can twiddle in the stream configuration, but I'm afraid once it's started, it's started. Ooh, a little lag there. Wonder if that was me. I am showing red being in the top corner. Hopefully the connection problems that knocked Davide Ricciardi out of the race at Spa will not come back. We can get a good session in here. So 2-minute lap time and 15-minute qualifying should get 7 or 8 laps in here, 6 of which will be hot. So not a lot of chances to get it right. And the good news is, with fewer cars in the session this week, there won't be quite the crowd to get in the way of a good time. Ah, good. Well, glad the audio is working out. Thanks, Bill, for reporting in. And I don't want to blame Microsoft Edge for my connection woes, because all sorts of things can happen between a streamer and YouTube, but that's the variable that has been changed, and now things are better. So we'll take that as a sign. Ricciardi throwing the Lamborghini into 130R. Coming up to this vicious chicane at the end of the lap. If any of you have played the Project Cars 2 Sakito circuit, which is totally not Suzuka, it deletes that chicane and allows you to just blast down this hill. Which is quite an enjoyable experience. I had a series a while back that was running LMP3 cars at Sakito, and my goodness, that was something. But here we have the real live Suzuka layout, and these guys will be throwing some pretty hard to handle GT1 cars through this challenging Japanese circuit. Ricciardi now on his first timed lap. Trying to preserve his championship lead, which has closed to only 2 points. So he and Talvidi are very much neck and neck in the championship. They were tied unofficially at the end of the race at Spa, but a scoring error discovered after the race has now been corrected. And Ricciardi profited by gaining a spot in that correction and is now 2 measly points in the lead. With Gutierrez in third, still with a legitimate shot, as well as the next 3 drivers, I believe Vandergeest and Bali, and I think Brown, all still have at least a mathematical shot of winning it all. Coming down the back straight now, there's a car in front of Ricciardi. might be Vandergeest who snuck out in front of him at the start of the session. So here's the first hot lap, and it's a 2 minutes .7. Well, it seems that not all the cards were played in free practice. Let's move on up to who this is. Oh, this is Rob Milligan. Brown comes across with a 2:03 on his first hot lap. Talvidi with a 2 minutes .8. So the top of the leaderboard looking familiar and very close. Less than a tenth of a second separating the top two. Jump out of the... Oh, and a slide from Ricciardi. Trying a bit too hard and taking too much of the curb there. So it looks like he'll wave this lap off. Still lost less than a second in all that. Williams only 2/10 off now in third. Vandergeest with a 2:01, equaling his practice pace, but that is now suddenly 6/10 back from the new leader. Nice flyby camera there in 200R. Roberto Bali, a second and a half off the pace on his first hot lap. It seems that Ricciardi has now, has caught Milliken, and in an attempt to not run up his tailpipe, has again wagged the tail of the car. I do have the tire smoke plug-in. This is one of the newer features of the shaders patch, is more realistic smoke. So yes, we have the smoke plug-in turned on. We have the grass and sand, which has been fixed in the later releases. It had been causing problems in its initial release, but those have been magically corrected already. The development cycle for shaders patch is just phenomenal. The features they come out with and the speed with which they make corrections to what comes out. Really great. And it does add a lot of, you can see the sort of furriness of the grass now. Just adds that sense of immersion. A lot of people are hesitant to adopt shaders patch because it is, it does add a bit of work for the computer to do. But if you have one that can do it, the change in look, this game came out in 2014 and it wouldn't look it to a casual observer. This is one of the sort of lower res track mods now. Some of the newer tracks that take advantage of all the shaders patch features, like Lilski's Watkins Glen, or CTMP, where we were earlier in the season. Just phenomenal the way these tracks look. And then you add Peter Bose's Sol mod that adds weather and day-night cycle, and it's really something special. It's not a battle on track yet. We're still in qualifying, but let's see how this plays out. Rob is still trying to get a time in here. Looks like he's going to pull aside now, though, and let Ricciardi by, so that they stop, so that they don't hold each other up here. Vandergeest sits in fourth now after leading in free practice. The sandbagging strategy in practice is now becoming clear. Vandergeest now 6/10 off. But still showing pace. Top 5 under a second apart. Andrew, only 8 cars so far. We had a couple of folks withdraw just today because of just real life getting in the way of what really matters, Yeah, it's interesting role. They've done a lot in the last few releases of shaders patch to make it run a bit more efficiently, and even on my computer that I only bought last year and spent an inordinate amount of my own money on, you can see an improvement. Like it used to be a bit of a resource hog, but now the performance improvements in the last several releases of shaders patch have really made a huge difference in the performance of the mod and in the game as a whole. it tends to be true of most software projects. When you come out with a new feature, the first release just makes it work, and the next couple of releases make it work well. And this is no different. Some of the newest, coolest features come out, and they're gorgeous, but they make it work a little harder. But within the next release or two, you have that same feature running just as well as the base game used to. And hats off to Ilya and all the folks who are contributing to Shaders Patch, because it just looks fantastic. Vanity's not improving that lap, still sitting 6/10 back, or thereabouts. Talvidi's next up on track, still less than a tenth behind. He's in the number 5, Saline. And again, Phil Brown in the 57 Ferrari. He will be pleased to see, as well as everybody else who is showing up today. While it will make it a challenge for the broadcast, it'll be great for the drivers who show up today, because you're now guaranteed no worse than 8th or 9th. And that will definitely be an advantage when we go into the final round at Laguna Seca, for these drivers to have perhaps a 30-point gain on whoever is in front of them in the overall points. In a race series like this, consistency of attendance is almost as important as consistency of pace. Alexander Williams currently sitting in 3rd, only 2/10 off the pace. He has been at or near the front, but the Ferraris have been denied a top step finish by the 2 leaders so far. We've seen Lamborghinis and Salines at the front, followed by all the Ferraris, often in a group. Of the Ferrari crowd, we seem to have 4 today. Williams takes the lead in qualifying out of nowhere with a 2 minutes .4. Hello. A challenger appears. The screaming yellow Ferrari has taken the lead by 3/10 at the top of the qualifying board. That will no doubt light a fire under our 2 points leaders, who now sit 2nd and 3rd on the board. Ricciardi appears to have eaten this lap. Yep, with a 25-second deficit. He may have pitted or simply hung back to give himself a gap. Now on to a flying lap again. Only 2 minutes left in the session. We may be looking at final laps for these drivers. One more shot to work their way up the grid. Suzuka is a very twisty course, and it may be difficult to work their way through the field if you have a bad qualifying session and have to start from the back. Talvidi jumps the tiny gap over Ricciardi's time and takes 2nd. Sits 17 thousandths off of Williams' pace. You can't get much closer than that. Oh, this is going to be a thriller if these paces hold for the race. Ricciardi through Spoon. Double apex left onto the back straight. It will take him to the end of the lap. Vandergeest and Bally in the pits. So their qualifying sessions are over at this point with only less than 30 seconds to go. Flinging the Lamborghini into the final corner up to the chicane. Smoke from the tires. Always lost a tenth there at least. .59, 2 minutes. He will not better his time. That's a 2:01.2. Ricciardi will have to settle for a second row starting spot as Williams takes pole with a 2 minutes flat. Talvidi less than the blink of an eye behind. And Ricciardi and Vandergeest making up row 2. Bally and Brown in Ferraris making up row 3, and Gutierrez and Milliken in row 4. Gutierrez, third place in the championship, needs to get up the field and beat both of the points leaders to increase his chances of a dark horse win in the final round. Ricciardi appears to be waving off the lap. Williams still going. Not sure who the last car across the line would be, because that will be what ends the session. Williams already at 7/10 off of his own pace, so he has worked all the magic he had there. Brown 1.5 seconds back. That will improve his time if he can hold it. Gutierrez pulling into the pits 2 seconds back. That's where he'll stay. So it looks like we're waiting for Brown, and he loses the tail, and ooh, a hard impact into the pit wall. Yikes. Well, there's a dramatic end to the qualifying session. And now we have the minute cooldown. So let's take a look at the qualifying times. Andrew Williams has taken the pole with a 2 minutes .4. Tony Talvidi just behind, also with a 2 minutes .4. Ricciardi inside of row 2 with a 2 minutes .7. Vandergeest fourth with a 2:01.2. Roberto Bali fifth with a 2:01.5. Phil Brown with a 2:02.1 in sixth place. Gutierrez 2:02.6, and Rob Milliken 2:06.7. Will round out this field of only 8 cars. You know, it's tempting to just jump in this Viper and run along with them, but I will decline to endanger these drivers' lives with my own driving, and I'll just sit in the pits. This is going to be good. Lots of pleasant surprises there in qualifying. I am going to do my greatest contribution, which will be to warp to the pits. And now we'll look back on the field. There's Andrew Williams on the pole. Go into free cam here and show the grid. Just because that'll be cool, right? There we go. Williams, Talvidi, Ricciardi, Vandergeest. And Bally, fifth. Phil Brown, Johnny Gutierrez, and Rob Milliken. Oh, this is going to be good. This is going to be great. Still just under a minute now to wait. We have 90 seconds here between the end of qualifying and the start of the race in which to make any last-minute tweaks to setups. Remember to put all the fuel in the car. With a 90-minute race, we'll be looking at least one pit stop, perhaps some folks running a 2-stop strategy. Where's the helicopter cam going to look? It might be... This might be best for the start. Now under 20 seconds, the excitement beginning to build in the pits of the drivers' stomachs as we get ready to go. Now down to 10. The lights will begin to light. Here we go. Round 6 from Suzuka is underway. Ricciardi with a great start. Looking to the inside, but Talviti is there. He will hold the line. Ooh, but Ricciardi outbreaks him. Goes second. Oh, but goes wide. Has to surrender the place and drops right back into third. A clean start from all 8 drivers, and Williams retains the lead, with Talviti in the saline just behind him. Oh, this helicopter cam works pretty well, doesn't it? I'll stick with that for a while. Tire tactics, I believe they do have to change compounds once, but I'm not sure about that. Ooh, Talviti, tail wagging out a bit, and Ricciardi, using that to his advantage, pulls right up on his bumper. Let's go in the car. Ooh, bouncing over the curb. His front windshield is full of saline. Has to back off and give space. This is only lap 1 of a 90-minute race. No sense getting into a tangle now. We'll go back 1. Phil Brown with a huge start is now in 4th, but ooh, who was that sneaking through on the inside? That was Van der Geest. Not sure Brown would have seen him there. There was a slight touch. Van der Geest is through for 4th. Brown down to 5th. Gutierrez up to 6th. Now go back to Ricciardi, who is 6/10 back. Brown. Yeah, let's go back to Brown, actually, because he's only 3/10 back. Oh, they've got a nice 3-car battle here. You can see already Shader's patch rendering more damage than is probably there. Ooh! Van der Geest gets squirrely, defends the inside going into the chicane, but loses the rear end of the car, and everybody chokes up. Gutierrez with nowhere to go runs into the back of Brown. And the accordion effect bites him the worst as he falls a second back from Brown's rear bumper, which is looking a tad more well-used than it was a moment ago. A lively start in lap 1 at Suzuka. Williams running away now to a second lead over Talviti. With all respect to Williams, I don't think anyone would have expected a gap like this to open up so soon in the race between anyone and our 2 leaders, but Williams is scampering away for his life while the 2 points leaders battle behind him. Talviti and Ricciardi, 2nd and 3rd. Tires still a little chilly. Very aggressive over the curbs. Trying to find every ounce of speed. Up to the hairpin now, lap 2. Bit of smoke from Ricciardi. A wag of the tail from the Lamborghini as they power out through 200R now. Down and then up again into Spoon. Field stretching out a bit behind them. Van der Geest now enjoying a 1.6, now 1.7 second lead over Brown. So that battle has spread out a bit. Perhaps the middle of the field realizing that it's still too early to get into the argy-bargy that they got into at the start. Maybe surviving the race is more important than track position in the first lap. But this battle for second continues between the points leaders. These two will be, oh my, 3 fastest laps of the race coming down to Ricciardi, who claims the honor eventually with a 2:02.9. So race pace too feisty to support the 2 minutes flat that we saw before. Talviti running wide through turn 1, but not wide enough to allow Ricciardi to peek in. Shows the nose of the car, but doesn't make the move. The lead of the championship is at stake here. And as this is still by far the closest gap on track, we'll stay with the action. Salviti running wide again, but then defending the inside of the next corner. Consummate driving from the two leaders. Ricciardi working so hard into the hairpin, smokes the tires again. Trying not to commit any offenses of contact. The respect between these two drivers evident in the competition. Through Spoon again. Vandergeest only 1.2 seconds back now. Gutierrez now hovering around a second behind Brown. But they'll stick with this battle for second for now. Williams now out to a second and a half. Look at that Ferrari go. I was saying the Ferraris had been denied a top two finish so far, but Williams is having none of that. Looking to break that streak with authority. Still nose to tail through the end of the course, down the final corner, onto the front straight again. .203s all around. Salviti and Ricciardi with very different lines through turns 1 and 2. Ricciardi with a slight advantage this time closes the gap. Salviti just hitting his marks, not getting flustered. Let's go inside Ricciardi's car, looking up to second. You can see Williams just driving away now out to 2 seconds. He's gaining at least 0.3 a lap already. An incredible pace. Williams has shown great pace in the last two events, but I don't think either of these two would have expected that they would be losing out to him at this early point in the race. Oh, Ricciardi's showing inside, not with any position, but just letting Salviti know, yes, I am still here. This battle is by no means over. .7.5 minutes in, and this has not taken a breath since the beginning of the race. Ooh, looking inside again. Ooh, but sacrifices his line. And Ricciardi slides wide, loses time. Vandergeest in fourth, seeing this action happen. Just biding his time. Yes, yes. Continue the battle. By all means. Oh, Salviti wide through 130R. Doesn't lose time. Ooh, and Ricciardi, ooh, smoking the tires again. Coming into the chicane, he is not leaving an inch. But every overexertion is going to let Vandergeest catch up. 203s again for the top 5 in the field. Top 6. You see Valley also crossing with a 203. So the pace pretty equal among the leaders. Milliken into the pits already. Oh, and Milliken has dropped from the race. I wonder if he had some sort of issue. But Milliken, struggling with a car at the back of the field, has already withdrawn. Less than 10 minutes into the race. Well, that is a shame. Ooh, Ricciardi very aggressive through the inside curb. Not outside track limits, but that Lamborghini. Ooh, and Vandergeest on the power a bit too hard. Wags the tail of that Ferrari, and Brown closes right up on him. Now the two Ferraris nose to tail in a new battle for fourth. Salviti and Ricciardi calming down at least a bit. We'll switch to these two. Go inside Brown's car. Vandergeest pulling away slightly now, but oh, they both go wide through Spoon. Vanderkeef's perhaps cooking his tires a bit, trying to get control of the car. And Brown, sensing that he was closing, getting a little too excited. But whatever the case, these two are now close in contention for fourth. Ooh, over the curbs again. We'll see if Brown can hang on to the car. Again, you see the twitchy wheel. He's been having issues with hard braking zones in the last 2 races. You can see the car wagging back and forth as he approaches Tony Talviti with the fast lap of the race so far, 2:02.4. So he now, is very suddenly under a second to Williams. What has happened to Andrew Williams on that lap? Talviti has whittled that gap down to nothing. And is continuing to close on Williams. Have the Ferrari's tires been mistreated just a tad too much? Or does Williams simply have a bobble and is about to recover? The gap hovering now at 7/10. Talviti not letting him get away. Oh, Ricciardi pushing the car around. Very loose on exit. He can see these gaps closing and wants to get in on the action. Now we have the 3-car battle for the lead, where before Williams was running away with it in the first few laps. Now we have the podium right together. Williams has to calm it down now, get back to his pace, find his marks, and not let whatever happened on the previous lap get to him. We'll go inside the saline as they approach the chicane. Through 130R first. Now down to the old right-hand sweeper, which is now a very tight chicane to the right. Ooh, and not lag, lock up. Williams, and they collide in the chicane. Oh, disaster. Williams loses the car, collides with Talviti, and Ricciardi is through. And Williams has disconnected. That was lag. A lag spike kills Williams' entry to the chicane. He collides with Talviti, and disaster has struck the top of the chart. Ricciardi cannot believe his fortune. And it looks like Brown through the grass behind them, out of third place. Gets the car going again. Bally is through, Gutierrez is through. Talviti gains one of his positions back. Williams has reconnected. But is stuck in the pits, and our leader and pole qualifier suddenly perhaps finds himself a lap down. Depends on where the timing error dropped him. No, it shows only 25 seconds back, so he got credit, I believe, for the lap. But now has it all to do in the next 75 minutes. Oh, my goodness. Disaster for Andrew Williams, leading the race. And transmission issues of the internet variety have claimed his position. Now Ricciardi, after watching that battle in third, finds himself in the lead of the race with Talviti in second place in the championship, now down to 5th. This has massive implications for the championship. It's unfortunate to see that happen. It looked like Williams had perhaps just outbraked himself into the chicane, but in fact, it looks like it may have been a connection issue. But that spike of lag has sent his car careening into Talviti's. And now the Saline sits 5th. And these two did not have the pace advantage on the rest of the field that they've enjoyed in the earlier races. The top 6 very close in time. Top 7, really. Within about a second and a half of each other in qualifying. Brown suffering with a 2:16 there after the spin. You can see the track still in the grass. Williams is indeed a lap down, so he did not, in fact, get credit for the lap, and now finds himself a lap down to the position he held before, which was the lead. Oh, heartbreak. Yeah. Looks like, mechanical problems of the virtual variety. No less a part of sim racing than real life. Just a different variety. Williams 2:31 on his outlap. But Ricciardi maintaining now a 4-second lead on Vandergeest. Oh, what a heartbreak for Williams. We go back to Talvidi now. He is up to 5th, catching up to Roberto Bali. He wants to make up for lost time and get back on terms with the leader. He is, by my reckoning, about 13 seconds off of that. We'll see what happens in the pit stops. And how many of them there are. Hard to say how much damage that saline has suffered, but according to the graphical displays, it's a bunch. We'll go inside the car. Seems to be tracking straight enough, so no suspension damage from the collision. But he now has it all to do. As Bali, Gutierrez, and Vandergeest, 3 very quick drivers. More stable line into the chicane. We'll see if he can catch Bali here. 203s, 204, 202 for Talvidi. That's the fastest lap of the race, 202.1. So Talvidi not wasting any time. He is on a recovery mission. Bali running wide through the second corner. Concedes to Talvidi, who goes through to 4th. Well, that's one step done in the job. Now has 6.5 seconds to make up to Gutierrez, who is 3rd in the points and on the track. And that number 15 lister. All these drivers with plenty of pace to challenge for the positions that they are in. Vandergeest finding himself in 2nd after that melee, with Ricciardi very much in sight. Let's get back to, let's see, where is Williams on track? He is just going through the S-curve now. The good news for Williams, I suppose, is that his car is refreshed. He will not be suffering the damage from the collisions, but a 2-minute lap deficit in this race, even with over an hour to go, is a tough ask. Oh, and Vandergeest has lost 2nd. Oh, he's spun the car on the back straight. Coming out of Spoon, Vandergeest has lost the car and has lost at least 2 positions. Talvidi and Bali are through. Brown also makes it through. A costly mistake takes Vandergeest out of 2nd, down to 6th. The field very close together still. Any little error can be very costly in track position. Vandergeest now with a broken windshield. He must have contacted the wall there significantly. Bali giving up a couple of seconds being passed, and Vandergeest is into the pits to repair that damage. It's still probably too early, so he is, whether he intended to or not, he is finding himself very suddenly on a 2-stop strategy. That car is going to need a lot of TLC. He's going to have to remember to check the damage box on the pit strategy to make sure that damage is repaired. Pulls into the stall. You can see the damage to the front end. Oh, and he has dropped. Rather than repair the car, Vandergeest is out of the race. Oh, dear. I believe he was 4th in the championship and now will finish 7th. Oh my. Well, with surprise retirements before the race, suddenly Vandergeest, fourth in the championship, is going to lose out. He at least finished some laps, so he will get credit for the race, and if things hold the way they are, if Williams pass him, he will get a 7th place finish, which is not insignificant, but it's not what could have been, and he remained in the race. So already some drama. In the first 20 minutes, we've seen 2 retirements from an already small field. And now Ricciardi has stretched his lead to almost 10 seconds over Gutierrez. Talviti, though, already up to 3rd. Profiting somewhat from the mistakes of the folks between himself and Ricciardi. We could definitely see this battle heat up again. 2:03 through from Ricciardi. We'll see what Gutierrez and Talviti make as they cross the line. 2:04 from Gutierrez. And another 2:02 from Talviti. So Talviti very much closing the gap on both of the top 2. He is on a mission to retake the lead of this race. Through turns 1 and 2 now, not suffering the same damage from his collision with Williams that Vandergeest. I don't know, we'll have to catch that in post-race replay, but that must have been a very hard collision with the wall for Vandergeest to do enough damage to take him out and not make it worth repairing. It does take a while to do repairs on these cars in the pits. The virtual repair time can be costly, but, you know, he was up by a lap on Williams, who turns a 2:03.4, so he's still turning leader pace and has now passed Vandergeest on track. He was a full lap behind Brown, and likely still fuming from his misfortunes. Talviti closing down to under 2 seconds now from Gutierrez. Oh, but tragedy striking the top drivers in this race so far. Williams with connection issues, losing a lap. Vandergeest losing the car onto the backstretch, hitting that wall, and with repairs costly enough that he simply dropped from the race. He was able to get it back to the pits, but I guess just for whatever reason decided it wasn't worth repairing the car to get back into it. Now the gap down to 1.2 seconds, Gutierrez to Talviti. And closing fast, that's a 1.5 seconds made up on that lap between the two. Gutierrez squarely approaching the first corner. Struggling for grip. I wouldn't think after only half an hour the tires would be suffering, but perhaps if he's been driving aggressively. So we now have the top 3 in points now sitting on the podium, not in their championship order. But here they stand, Talviti now under a second and closing fast on Gutierrez. There's enough damage on the right side of that saline that you can only barely see the number 5 on the door at some point. You never know it looking from the left side. It's like, oh, the car's perfectly fine. And the camera angle changes, and oh no. Go inside Talviti's car as he approaches the rear of Gutierrez's Lister. Through the hairpin, Gutierrez very squirrely, doing everything he can to maintain this position. Through 200R and up to Spoon. This double apex left, very difficult. Can't be over-eager on the power. We'll see if we can see any evidence of Vandergeest's crash. There are no skid marks on the ground. So I'm not sure what happened to Vandergeest to send him into the wall, but whatever the case, damage must have been significant. Ooh, Gutierrez running a little bit wide there. Talviti biding his time. Not wanting to complicate the situation by sticking the nose of the saline into that. But now as they come to the line, Gutierrez losing time to Ricciardi. Talviti with a 2:03.2 is being held up. He will want to complete this pass as fast as he can. We can get back on terms with Ricciardi. Again, very different lines through these corners for the two drivers. Talviti so patient, just looking for whatever opportunity may present himself. Gutierrez wide there, Talviti showing the nose. Now, if they're using spotters, surely Gutierrez's spotter will have been alarmed. Up through Dunlop now, they're losing time to Ricciardi. Talviti needs to make this move. Oh, and Gutierrez eats the curb on the inside, has to recover the car, a bit of smoke from the back tires. Talviti seizes the chance, goes side by side up the hill, but now has to rein the car in for the hairpin, makes the move stick, and Tony Talviti has claimed second place and has his rival for the championship in his sights. The top three in points are 1, 2, 3 on the track with an hour and 3 minutes to go. It's hard to believe it. Only 27 minutes and already all of this has happened. Oh my. Who says an 8-car race would be boring? Not this guy. Talviti now 13 seconds back from Ricciardi, but has shown the pace advantage. Qualified ahead of Ricciardi in qualifying. Has the pace to make up some time. 2:02.6 from Ricciardi. He knows what's up and has quickened his pace. We'll see what happens here. Talviti will be slower than that on this lap after that battle with Gutierrez, but will now be willing to get back on his pace, hit his marks. Oh, they lost 2 seconds there on that lap alone. Talviti will now be looking to make up that time. Make this a race for the lead again. Oh my. We go back now to 6th, find out where Andrew Williams is on track. After leading the race, there's another car around him. No? That was just an echo. He's a lap down to the leaders, but has clear track. We'll see what his lap times look like. A 2:02.5, so he has the pace still to lead this race. But can he make up 2 minutes? He has 120 seconds to carve off. He showed the pace in qualifying. We'll see if he can do it. Fraction at a time. But he has by no means given up. He is setting the pace of this race, even from a lap deficit. Ricciardi, meanwhile, coming up the hill from Spoon. All by himself on track. Enjoying the clean air and just hitting his marks, turning the laps, and hoping he can find the pace to hold Talviti off for the rest of the race. Through that tough final chicane. And now down the hill through final curve. His lap time there at 2:02, so he has stepped it up. Talviti now through the chicane with Gutierrez still right there behind him. Talviti with a 2:02.7, so nothing to choose between the two of them. Gutierrez losing not quite a second. Bally with a 2:04.9, not catching them up. Gutierrez losing time there. Looks like he was squirrely coming through the first 2 corners. Doesn't want to let Talviti get away, but also has to be mindful that Bally is closing. Talvidi with a 13-second gap, not closing significantly so far. Williams with another 2:03. Seems like he just crossed the line, and here he is crossing again. He is not giving an inch. He is not going to give up on this race. We're now under an hour to go. Ricciardi still leading. He must be laughing all the way around to have had such good fortune in this race. After connection issues took him out at Spa, dropped him from the lead back to 10th. Now finds himself on point again with and without his closest rivals to put him off his rhythm. He will just be clicking off the laps and hoping that they will be fast enough to maintain this gap. Gutierrez out to 3 seconds back from Talvidi, but Talvidi's gap is not closing significantly. 2:02.4 for Ricciardi. He is fast and getting faster. Talvidi now down the hill. Let's see what his time is. He's 2:02.4. Practically identical in lap time. 2:04.2 for Gutierrez, so he is losing ground. Talvidi. And a 2:04.5 from Bali, so that gap is shrinking by inches. Oh my, 2:04.7 from Brown, so he is also settling into 5th place pace, but Williams now through the chicane to complete another lap. One behind the leaders, but we'll see if this continues to be as fast. Down the final curve onto the main straight, 2:03.3, so he's now, for perhaps the first time since the disconnection, losing ground to the leader. But still faster than 3 of the drivers in front of him. Well, that's just me. We'll see if it's enough. A second a lap with 2-minute laps. And we'll complete at least 30 of them between now and the end. And we'll see if restarting the race and having a full tank of fuel several laps in will allow Williams to shorten his pit stop and perhaps gain an advantage in the pit cycle and try to get on terms with the car in front of him, which currently is Phil Brown, in 5th. Oh, man. Well, this race looked very different in the opening laps, with Williams leading the race, with Talvidi and Ricciardi behind, but connection problems for Williams led to a collision with Talvidi, and then a disconnection, and now Ricciardi finds himself in the lead. 2:02.7 for Talvidi, whittling away at that lead, but it's still holding at 13 seconds. Much the same as it did the situation in reverse at Donington, where Talvidi held on to win by maintaining a lead over Ricciardi. The tables have turned here. And now that orange Lamborghini just holding on and watching the minutes tick away. Gutierrez 4 seconds back. Still maintaining lead on Bali, so this gap not contracting. 2:02.9 from Williams, so he is still on leader pace, but on the wrong lap. Oh, that's just heartbreaking. It's the first time that a Ferrari has outpaced the 2 points leaders in the race, and it ends in tears with a connection problem. Now, Talvidi will want to remember to check the box for repairs when he comes in for his pit stop. Because even though the car is tracking straight, we'll go back in the car to make sure, but yes, he didn't suffer severe damage in his collision with Williams. But he will want to make sure that he regains every advantage he can get. If he has any kind of damage to his front aero, such as it is on these older GT1 cars, if he has any kind of aerodynamic damage, or any slight suspension misalignment, he will want to get that repaired in the pits, as it looks like it will probably be less time than the tire change. 2:02.7 there from Talvidi. Still 13 seconds, but less change. 2:04s from Gutierrez and Bally. Let's see, Brown now coming across the line in the 57 Ferrari. He's turning 2:05, so that gap to Bally is widening. Williams up the hill to the chicane. He seems to be catching Phil Brown. We'll see if that turns into a battle on track, or if Williams will be fast enough to simply breeze by and try 2:02.7. 3 seconds faster than Brown on that lap. So we shall see if... Now Brown has no obligation to let Williams through, of course, since he's a lap down, but Williams clearly showing the pace to get back on terms with the leaders. Will it be enough? Between that and the shorter pit stop that he will need after refreshing the car. Talvidi, smooth as ever. He knows the only way to make up this gap to Ricciardi is to simply do what he has been doing. Maintain his pace and try to whittle away the seconds. Still plenty of time left in the race. Ooh, and a bit of a slide through 130R as he comes up the hill. Into the chicane again. Attacking the curbs, but not too much. Don't want to unsettle the car. 2:02.8 from Ricciardi. So he is maintaining the pace. 2:02.4, so a few tenths off again. So Talvidi succeeding in whittling away the time. Here's a 2:04 from Gutierrez. 2:04 from Bally as well. Brown now through the chicane. We'll see if Williams starts to appear behind him. Not quite. But surely he's getting closer. The 2:04.8 for Brown. I'm not sure if that's his best lap, but it was a good one. Now Williams through the chicane and down the hill. Only 8 starters and 2 retirements already. Milliken with issues with the car in the opening laps, pulled into the pits and did not return. Vandergeest with a crash. Williams still catching. He is showing some fight. He's not going to let this go. I cannot imagine how frustrated Andrew Williams must be right now. After winning the pole and leading this race convincingly, on pace. You know, you hate to see it, whether the cars are virtual or real. You hate to see a great driver and a great car get taken out by some random mechanical failure. And while it might be a piston or a suspension piece that breaks on a real car, you have a momentary lapse of connection in a sim race. That's true. It's a good point from Bill in chat. Andrew will want to make up every position he can to try and get points for the team, because the team championship is likewise close. Ricciardi with a 2:03 that lap. His pace relaxed some. 12 seconds back to Talvidi, who turned to 2:02.6. So that lap, Talvidi the winner of the head-to-head battle for lap time. Gutierrez now almost 10 seconds back from Talvidi, turns to 2:04. Bally is next. We'll see, that gap looks closer. Another 2:04, so nothing to choose between them on that lap. But Bally may have something to say about the top step of the podium before the end of this race. We'll see. The pit stop cycle will be very crucial in that battle. 2:04.7 likewise for Brown. So third, fourth, and fifth with very similar lap times on that lap. Gap from first to second now down under 12 seconds. 2:03.9 from Williams. He had some sort of bobble there. Lost him a second. But still gaining on track on Brown. Meanwhile, Ricciardo continues to set the pace at the front. The lead shrinking in drips and drabs, but not enough to be alarming yet, probably. The best thing Ricciardo can do, much like Talvini, is just not overstress the car. He's got a lead. Just enjoy that good fortune. And try to just click off these laps for the next 50 minutes. So smooth through 130R. Now all the way down through the gears into first, aggressively over the curb. And then flat out down the hill onto the main straight. 2:03.3 for Ricciardi. Not the pace he has shown in the last few laps. We'll see if Talvini closes the gap. It looks on the timing chart like he should. 2:02.4, so almost a second there off of the lead for Talvini. Oh, that's me. There's Gutierrez there fighting the Lister down the hill. 2:04.1. Now to Bali, who seems to be closing. 2:03.8. Yes, so Bali has taken a bite out of his gap to Gutierrez. Phil Brown bounding over the curbs in the chicane. Now 14.5 seconds back from Bali, turns a 2:05, so he loses ground there. Williams now through the chicane in a very similar line. And he comes through with a 2:02.5, almost the fast lap of the race. Williams will be catching Brown here soon enough. Let's see. Brown going up the hill there. And Williams... that gap is definitely closing. Tough to say what'll happen when it finally does become a nose-to-tail encounter between the two Ferraris. Brown and Williams have had some great battles, but this time it will not be for position. We'll see. Brown has no reason to let him through other than simple respect for the pace. We'll see if it happens, or whether Brown simply says, excuse me, you're a lap down. Please don't hold me up. I have my own battles to fight. Now Talvini still in second, now down to 10 seconds back. The crucial point here will be when he closes this gap, and Ricciardi is in. Ricciardi is into the pits because we are now at 46 minutes left in the race. Talvini stays out. So Talvini will go through into the lead of the race on the pit cycle with a 2:02.3. He now has all the work on his shoulders to close this gap while Ricciardi is in the pits. Ricciardi temporarily down to fourth. I was hoping that wouldn't be. Oh. I see. Well, Fred, if you want to keep up with things, you should subscribe to SimRacingOnline on YouTube. Just like everybody else should. Ricciardi out of the pits. Sits in fifth. Williams will briefly regain his lap on Ricciardi. So we'll see what Talvini's perhaps in lap will be. With clear track ahead of him, he will want to widen this gap and try to gain some time. What if SimRacingOnline starts posting Final Fantasy stuff? I don't think that's going to happen. I'm the only weirdo that plays RPGs and sim racing on his own channel. Although, you know, Jimmy Broadbent was playing FF8 the other day, so you never know. If SRO starts showing live broadcasts of Chocobo races, then, well, I'll tune in. I don't care. I'd watch that too, but then you knew I was weird. Oh no! And Talviti briefly disconnects. I thought he had lost the car, but simply lost connection. My goodness. Talviti's in the pits. Oh my. That was scary. Almost had our second leader of the day taken out by connection issues. So Talviti now into his pit stall. We'll see if the damage is repaired. 204 flat for Gutierrez, who will now take the lead briefly. Bally also through, staying out. Where is Ricciardi? Now, it doesn't look like the same version that SRS uses. I don't know where that one came from. Or this one, really. But this one is much better. Ricciardi, Talviti is still in the pits. Brown is in the pits. Talviti not moving. And Ricciardi goes back through into the lead. Talviti is moving, however. So we'll see where the gap stabilizes. It was 10 seconds. It's now 6. Talviti gaining what appears to be a 4-second advantage in the pit cycle. That will be a huge help to him as he regains position on track. Now, I don't think he repaired the car. Go to the free cam around the car, and in fact, he still shows damage on the side, so Talviti choosing not to risk repairing the car and losing time. Not sure whether that was really something he had to worry about with the tire change being as long as it is, but whatever the case, he's gained 4 seconds in the pit cycle. And if he can now maintain his pace advantage, that may be enough. With 42.5 minutes to go in the race, that may be enough to bring him onto terms with Ricciardi before the end. Gutierrez currently leading the race, but owes us a pit stop. He's going to stay out another lap, just as he did at Donington. Gutierrez using the clear track to try and gain a pace advantage, but with a 204, we'll see where Ricciardi and Talviti's time come in. Talviti, of course, will be slow because this is his out lap. Bally with a 204.2. That may be his fast lap of the race. I'm not sure. He's been in the higher 204 so far. Ricciardi now approaching the chicane on fresh tires and another fresh load of fuel, taken to the end, just behind Williams, who I believe still owes us a pit stop. Williams with 203.1, Ricciardi 202.5. Talviti 301, but that's his out lap. So perhaps just under 60 seconds for a pit stop, if all goes well. Means that Gutierrez and Bally will surrender the top 2 positions when they pit. So, with Gutierrez and Bally owing us a pit stop, the effective leader of the race is still Davide Ricciardi. In his Lamborghini, rather. Bounding over the curbs. He is keeping up the pace. Brown with a 302 on his out lap. 44 seconds now from Talviti, which is probably about where he was before. They just had cars between them. Williams also still owes us a pit stop. I really just... It's hard to imagine how frustrated he must be after leading this race so thoroughly. He just had the pace to win this thing. And fickle fate has denied him the lead. Gutierrez through again, and Bally as well. They will lead 1-2 again. Enjoying their time in the spotlight at the front. Well, let's give them their time at the spotlight at the front. 2:04s for the both of them. I believe Talviti still has the fast lap of the race with a 2:02.1 or something like that. Williams with 2:02.9. And just as I say it, Ricciardi sets the fast time of the race with a 2:01.8. And a 2:02.0 from Talviti. So, Ricciardi just barely stretching out a lead over his rival. But the both of them showing increased pace on this second stint. So the battle of the season continues, but with Ricciardi leading the way. Gutierrez is still in lead of the race, but owes us a pit stop. Through 200R now. A long sweeping right up the hill to Spoon. 2:03.0 for Brown. That's his fast lap of the race. By a considerable margin. He had been running 2:04s and 2:05s, now with a 2:03.0. A great lap for Brown. Gutierrez down the back straight. Through 130R and approaching the chicane. Very smooth in the Lister through those tight corners. We'll see if he takes the hard right into the pits, and he does. Gutierrez from the lead. Surrenders his position. Passes the commentator Viper. It's a bit cramped for a recording studio, I must say. So that will hand the lead of the race for now to Roberto Bali in the Ferrari. With another 2:04. .202.7 from Williams. He has not given up on this thing. 2:02.4 from Ricciardi. Talviti with a fast lap of the race. 2:01.5. He has closed the gap again. We'll see. Yes, back down under 6 seconds now. Or hovering thereabouts. Bally enjoying his moment in the sun. We'll give it to him. Only a 22-second gap back to Ricciardi, however. Ooh, smoke entering the hairpin, locking up those tires. He still has to pit, so, you know, why leave tread on the tires? Kill all tires, as they say. Usually they say that on the side of rallycross cars, not GT1 Ferraris, but hey-ho. Wide out of Spoon and down and then up the hill. Bally not relaxing his pace. He's showing he can lead this thing. Now the gap already down to 21 seconds and wide through 130R. Getting a little overexcited here. Smoking the tires into the chicane. We'll see if he makes the hard right this lap. Now down to 36 minutes, and yes, he will be in with a relatively short second stint. We'll see if the lesser fuel load that he will have to take in this pit stop will make a timing difference and whether he can gain an advantage from that. Ricciardi, the effective leader of the race, already onto the front straight, so he will retake the lead. Talviti behind. Ricciardi has a 2:02.2. Talviti with a 2:02.0, so another 0.2 off on that lap. We'll see if Gutierrez now also reclaims third place as he had it before the pit cycle. The gaps were significant enough that it looks like unless Bally gains a big advantage here, he will go back to fourth and we'll be back to where we started now. Williams, I didn't see whether Williams has pitted. He now sits between the leaders. He will very likely let Talvini through if the moment comes to make that decision. However, he is still showing leader pace. If he's not distracted by blue flags, he may hold his own here. Brown with a 2:05. I just don't know. The spirit of the race, if there is such a thing, would go to the yellow Ferrari driver for hanging in there and setting the times in spite of everything that's befallen him. He is not holding Talvini up. We'll go inside Talvini's car and see what happens here. Up the straight. Williams pulling aside, and yes, he lets off the gas, lets second place through. As much as he knows that he could keep up with Talvini, he's not going to get in the way of the fight for position at the top of the field. Classy driving from Andrew Williams, who now, despite having the pace to fight Talvini, will let him through. And now, perhaps, follow him around track and use this to his advantage in any blue flag situation. Now, Talvini was held up a bit there, but you could see, even from Williams' car, Ricciardi is in sight of this pair. If these two can work together and catch Ricciardi, this will be the battle to watch. Gaps widening down the field now. Gutierrez 31 seconds back after the pit cycle has concluded. So he has lost out in the pit cycle, and Talvini significantly gained on Ricciardi. Now hovering down to 5.5 seconds with 32 minutes to go. Plenty of time. If he can get back on his pace and whittle away at that lead. A little bit wide there on the exit. Now up to the hairpin. So smooth. Williams following along, not losing the gap. Ooh, smoke from the tires from Talvini's car. He's wide through Spoon. Oh, he'll be frustrated with himself there. Doesn't appear to have lost too much time, maybe a couple of tenths, but it's tenths that he can't afford to lose if he wants to catch up to Ricciardi and fight for the win here. The success that Talvini has had in catching up from the incident with Williams early on should not be understated. 202s from everyone in this lead trio, though Williams is not on the lead lap. He's still keeping pace with the two leaders. And there you see Davide Ricciardi in the lead of the race, within sight of Talvini and Williams. And go to Talvini. 2:03.3 from Gutierrez. Good lap from him. The 2:03.2 from Bally. He sets his fastest lap of the race. He's not done closing that gap and fighting for the podium. He has 7 seconds to make up now. The last set of the podium is no more certain than the top two. 2:05.6 from Brown. A bit of a relaxation from him after a 2:03. through 200R and up the spoon again for Tony Talvidi. I'm surprised he didn't repair the damage to that car, but as I say, he may have been worried about how long it would take. You never can. There's no indication in Assetto Corsa when you set up the pit stop how long the repairs will take. And even when you're in the pits, you don't get a time estimate. You just get a progress bar that drops either quickly or slowly. And ooh, Talvidi very squirrely, wagging the tail of that saline. It's one of the few times in this race where we've seen Talvidi out of shape really at all in the car. He's been very consistent and very smooth in his driving. Still, 2:02.1. Despite the appearance of being out of shape, he has still made up time on Ricciardi. Now down to 5 seconds. With still half an hour to go, anything can happen. When you think about what happened in the first 20 minutes of this race, we could see the whole order reverse at this point. It's a shame that we've lost Milligan and Van der Geest early in the race because an already small field of 8 cars have been reduced to 6, but the remaining 6 are still putting on a show. Bally with a 2:03, still trying to get on terms with Gutierrez. So 3.5 from Brown, a much better lap that time. So he's got the pace as well. Just not quite the consistency. It's a problem I have all too often in my racing. You know how frustrating that can be. Williams, I don't recall seeing whether he's stopped yet. With only a minute gap up to Brown, I suspect that he has not quite made his pit stop yet. But it's now under half an hour to go. He's got some phenomenal gas mileage out of that Ferrari. But, you know, he did have... Since his car got reset, he will be working on a full fuel load that started much later in the race. So I suppose he will gain a slight advantage in that he won't have to pit. He hasn't pitted yet, but having refreshed the car, if he started with a full fuel load, he'll be able to pit much shorter, for a much shorter time. 2:01.9 from Talvidi. He is closing that gap. Williams now into the pits to complete his one and only pit stop, most likely. One and only scheduled pit stop after the mechanical issues of the virtual variety brought him onto pit road and lost him the lap. What a shame. It would have been bad enough if he had limped into the pits, but having to get reset from the end of the lap, he lost an entire lap on the field in almost an instant. Now has it all to do again. 2:03.7 from Gutierrez, a great lap from him. Now Talvidi under 5 seconds to go. Oop, a little brief freeze from the PC. Don't want to see that. We have plenty of racing yet to watch. See if Williams is already... Oh, yes, Williams is already out of the pits and comes out just in front of Phil Brown. So, if he can now make up the pace that he had before, he will have unlapped himself from Brown and now may indeed have a shot at making up some places on track, and probably won't get all the way up to the leader, but will show the world what could have been. Back to the lead of the race. You see Ricciardi flashing by, and Talvidi now under 5 seconds to catch him. Bally also closing the gap to Gutierrez, now to 6.3 or thereabouts. So... first and second closing, and third and fourth may be in contention as well as we get down to 25 minutes to go. Yes, Fred, if the PC freezes and no one is here to watch it, the race will still finish. Another 4/10 off of the lead. Ricciardi from Talvidi. With 25 minutes to go, this race is by no means over. Talvidi smoking the tires for the rare occasions when you see Talvidi working hard in this car. He's so good at being smooth in the saline, making it seem almost effortless to show the pace that he's shown at the front of the race. But now he can see Ricciardi ahead of him. We'll go in the car. On the straighter sections of the course, he will see that orange Lamborghini. There it is. So now he has passed that crucial point for every second place driver, where you can see the car you're chasing, know that it's the leader. 2:03.1 from Bally, his fastest lap of the race by a wide margin. Great lap for him. That'll close the gap to Gutierrez. But there is Ricciardi ahead of Talvidi. Don't be surprised if this gap starts closing by leaps and bounds now that, Brown with a 2:03.6. He is finding pace now. But Talvidi, just that extra shot of adrenaline now that the gap has closed into visual range. Now's the time you have to concentrate even harder. Stay smooth, hit your marks, and not let that excitement build into something that will spin the car. Just looking at that timing sheet with Williams, 1 minute 56 seconds behind Brown, but that is by no means the whole story of his race. He will now be pulling away from Brown, behind on the timing sheet, but ahead on the track. 2:02.1 from Ricciardi. We'll see if Talvidi's time matches that. It's a 2:02.3, lost a bit of ground that time. But it's all down to these two now, with Gutierrez 37 seconds back. His mission now is to hang on to the last step of the podium with Bally chasing him down. Gutierrez needs to stay close if he wants to stay in contention for the championship, with only the race at Laguna Seca in 2 weeks to close out the season. Talvidi now down to 4 seconds. We're back. Here's Ricciardi now starting to feel the pressure. 2:03.2 from Gutierrez, a great time. He has also found pace in the Lister. 2:03.2 though from Bally, matching him. Oh, Talvidi over the curb. Very aggressive line. We now see Talvidi feeling the pressure to make up this gap. He needs to make sure that the doubt and mistakes don't creep in when the lead is so close. 2:03.8 from Brown. He's still improving. So in the closing 22 minutes, everybody's starting to find a little bit of pace. Practice making, if not perfect, then at least some improvement. The gap still holding around 4 seconds, but dipping below. We'll watch Ricciardi negotiate 130R and then the hairpin. Or, not hairpin, the chicane. Slamming down through the gears all the way to first, hard over the curbs. Talvidi following him through with a much wider, smoother line. Gains 0.3 just there. 2:02.7 from Ricciardi. And a 2:01.8 from Talvidi. This gap is closing. As time winds down in the race, the battle for the lead is looking like it will happen within the next few laps. If all goes to plan for Talvidi, and he can keep his pace up, he will catch Ricciardi. And the battle will be rejoined for the lead. What looked at the beginning of the race to look like a battle between Williams and Talvidi will now be between the 2 points leaders. Oh, and Ricciardi going wide. Was the car perhaps unsettled? 2:02.3 from Williams. He is still catching. Talvidi has to stay smooth, has to stay under control. Can't afford to let the excitement of seeing Ricciardi ahead of him goad him into making an error. Whether it's a small error or a huge error. You can hear the Lamborghini going by off camera, and Talviti working hard to close that gap, now well under 4 seconds. We'll go up to Ricciardi to see what happens here at the end of 130R and through the chicane. We saw he was unsettled on the previous lap, again hard over the curbs. The car getting very unsettled, and you can see Talviti just winding his way patiently through behind. Lap time of 2:02.5 from Ricciardi. And a 2:02.5 again, nothing to choose on that lap between the two of them. This is not over yet. We're now under 19 minutes. So with 2-minute lap times at about 10 laps to go then in the race. Bally now down under 6 seconds to Gutierrez. The red Ferrari chasing the black Lister for the last step on the podium. 2:03.4 for Gutierrez. We'll see if Bally betters that. 2:03.6. So this battle is also pretty even. And a 2:01.7 for Williams, almost the fastest lap of the race for the 6th place Ferrari. Struggling back from an early disconnection and tragically losing a lap to the leaders. He is setting the pace of this race with 18 minutes to go from the back. Brown with a 2:04. Oh, so frustrating. I'm frustrated for him. I'm not even in this race. 3.2 seconds, the gap now first to second. Talviti still showing the damage of that collision, while Williams' connection spiked and sent him through the chicane at the end of the lap, careening into Talviti's car. You can protest bad driving on the part of an actual driver, but you can't protest the racing gods for their their cruelty in doling out the fortunes of the race. Talviti creeping through the chicane, slow and steady, now under 3 seconds. Ricciardi with a slow-ish lap for him, 2:03.0 and a 2:02.4. So Talviti knocking that gap down again. You can now see the two cars fitting comfortably in frame now. Talviti so smooth through the first two corners. Just a supernatural ability to stay calm and collected, while the leader sits in front of him, so tantalizingly close. I would have binned it like 10 times by now. Absolutely sure. Every race, I'm like, ooh, I can make the pass. Oh, wait, that's a wall. But Talviti showing why he is close to the lead in the points. Gutierrez with a 2:04, Bally with a 2:03, knocking a full second off the gap between them. The last step of the podium is by no means certain. Williams 2:01.6. Incredible pace. Oh, what could have been for Andrew Williams. Oh man, I can't stop thinking about it. Somebody send this guy a fruit basket. Number 6 on the track, but number 1 in our hearts. Andrew Williams still chasing down some time. There you have the two leaders now comfortably within sight of each other. Under 2.5 seconds the gap now with 15 minutes to go. Talviti is going to make this a race. 2 points separate these two drivers at the top of the championship. And Williams briefly showing off the track. Gathers it back up again. He's not relaxing his pace a bit. 7/10. Talvidi betters Ricciardi's time there. Now down under 2.3 seconds the gap. Ooh, very wide through the first corner though. Loses a couple of tenths but gains it back, powering back onto the track. And let's go to the helicopter corner. Boop, since we have it. This gap is still closing. Bally also closing the gap to Gutierrez, now under 5 seconds and shrinking. So the fight for third is on. 2:03.4 from Gutierrez, a great lap from him. 2:03.3, so Bally only a slight gain on that lap. You can hear the saline closing in from behind the Lamborghini. These two getting closer. 2:11.6 from Williams. He definitely had some kind of mishap on that lap. We'll set him back. There we go. There's a slightly wider angle to show Talvidi giving chase. Still hovering around 2.5 seconds. Ricciardi and Talvidi know they have to be flawless in these closing minutes. Ricciardi still very aggressive over the curbs. Talvidi a wider, smoother line. 2:02.4 for Ricciardi. And a 2:02.9, so he lost a bit of ground there. He has to find the pace, hit his marks, not get too stressed out about being so close to the lead. Twelve and a half minutes now. So the lap they're on and 6 more to decide this race, which has definitely had some ups and downs, particularly in the beginning. 2:03.4 for Gutierrez. He's finding some consistency there. 2:03.4 from Bally. So the gap not closing on that lap between third and fourth. But just like this battle, Bally will now be seeing Gutierrez ahead of him. Ooh, Talvidi smoking the tires coming up to the hairpin. Briefly, the gap shrank under 2 seconds. Williams back into the pits now, as he damaged the car in the incident that took him off the track. He's back underway. So whatever happened to him on that lap, he has taken the time to jump into the pits and fix the car. Oop, and Bally under 4 seconds again. He has now lost a lap to Brown, with his second effective pit stop. Really third, if you count the disconnection. Talvidi closing the gap. Ricciardi had trouble in the chicane, and now Talvidi within a second of the leader. The battle is joined with 11 minutes to go. 2:04 from Ricciardi, a 2:02 from Talvidi. The battle is joined with 5 laps to go. Bally also closing to under 3.5 seconds from Gutierrez. So the battle for third also in question. But as we have seen in the last several rounds, it's between these two, Ricciardi and Talvidi, at the lead of the race. And it will be close. Talvidi had the pace on Ricciardi in qualifying and has been able to carve down this gap in slivers and shreds. 1 lap from the next. And now, ooh, Ricciardi hard over the curb, but keeps the car together. will go up to his car. This gap has now shrunk to half a second. These two. The battle has begun in earnest as we cross the 10 minutes to go mark. Through 200R and down the hill. The long right-hand sweeper approaching Spoon, the double apex left. It leads onto the back straight. We'll see who gets the better exit. This is a tricky corner to judge, particularly if you're like me and just a pleb with a single screen. It's hard to look ahead through that corner and see where the exit lines up. It's also over a crest. You really have to just sort of know the track. Through 130R now, nose to tail. The chicane will decide it. Ricciardi now defending inside. Talviti backing off, not wanting to hit him. Bali's gap to Gutierrez now 3.2, so he's also catching. Williams off the track again. Oh no. I would look away, but this battle is heating up. Briefly out to 0.6 of a second. Coming through the uphill S's. Oh, this is going to be good. Up to the double right that will take them under the bridge. Ooh, Talviti slightly out of shape. Has to gather the car back up. And now the quick juke right to get to the hairpin. Gap back to a second. Talviti had to gather the car back up there. Lost half a second there. 2:04.5 from Brown. Still showing the pace. Bali now down to only 3.5 seconds to Gutierrez. He is still bringing that fight for the podium. Ricciardi wide through Spoon. Talviti catching him up again. But he'll get a good exit. Ooh, Ricciardi very wide, almost touching the grass there. .214 from Williams. He's had another moment of excitement he wasn't looking for. Through the chicane again. Talviti still hanging back. Not sure whether he's having issues now or he just doesn't want to cause an incident going into that chicane. Lost out 0.2 on that lap, but still nose to tail with just under 7 minutes to go. Make that 4 laps to a checker. This one and 3 more. Bali's gap to Gutierrez now only 3.1 seconds. Can he whittle it away? And vie for that final step on the podium. Meanwhile, oh, Ricciardi going defensive now. Oh, and hard over the curb again. Talviti hanging in behind. Every bobble from that orange Lamborghini, an opportunity to catch up. But can't afford to let those jolts of excitement unsettle his own driving. A 2:04 flat from Brown. Good lap for him. Holding steady in 5th. That'll be a good finish for him. Consistent with the rest of the season. Where I don't think he's finished out of the top 5. Andrew Williams with a 2 minutes flat. sets the fastest lap of the race from the back of the field. Oh, what could have been. Oh, Talviti looking to the inside as they approach the hairpin. Ricciardi taking a defensive line. Talviti closing right up on his bumper. Talviti showing the nose of that saline. And the ruse was effective as Ricciardi squirrely into the chicane. They unsettled each other, both of them dropping the 203s. Oh, and Bally suddenly almost 10 seconds back from Gutierrez. He must have had an incident. He's still falling back. What has happened to Roberto Bally? He was closing on Gutierrez. He's back underway now. And, ooh, Ricciardi. Oh, wide coming up the S's. Talviti back on his tail again. Oh! Cutting inside. Compromising his own line. But showing Ricciardi he's there. Ooh, showing again through Denier. Almost looking like he was going to try an over-under there through the second corner. Now up the hill and the quick juke right before the hairpin. Smoking the tires of that saline, trying to slow down. The lead stretches back to 7/10 after that excitement. .206.5 for Brown. He had a moment. What in the world happened to Roberto Bally? He was knocking on the door of third place, suddenly 10 seconds back. We'll have to see. Guess that was with about 4 minutes to go in the race. We'll have to maybe check that out and replay. 2:01.1 for Williams. He is 2 seconds faster than this lead pair per lap. Oh, it could have been. That's just the way it goes. Talviti looking to the inside through the initial corner of the chicane. Now right up the tailpipes of that Lamborghini. Nose to tail down the front straight. He'll be feeling slipstream now. 2:04s from the leaders. They've been fighting and distracting each other. Talviti looks to the inside. Ricciardi defends. Talviti goes back to the outside, and they're side by side through turn one. And Ricciardi loses the rear end of the car. Talviti sneaks through and takes the place. Rubbing is briefly racing. Ricciardi doing nothing untoward, just lost the car. Talviti avoids him and sneaks through into the lead of the race with 2 minutes 20 to go. The lead has changed hands. Both drivers hanging onto the cars. Talviti with a different line through the corner than Ricciardi. I don't think he's unsettled. They just have different lines through those S's. Into Denier now. Talviti trying to put that incident behind him. Now has to concentrate on defending the lead. And Ricciardi, suddenly the attacker, will have this lap and one more. Ricciardi to the inside, and they touch. Ooh, and now, what do they do? Ricciardi holds the place. Talviti will not be pleased with that maneuver. Remember at Oschersleben, they got into this. Oh, and Ricciardi loses the car on the exit. Loses the car on the exit of 200R, has to give it up again, and Talviti goes through back into the lead. Oh my. High drama on the penultimate lap. Talviti now a second and a half ahead. This is the battle we were waiting for the whole second stint, and now it's here. Talviti now has even more adrenaline to squash. After that battle, adding some more dents and dings to the sides of that saline. Oh, and Ricciardi again losing the tail coming out of the chicane. He's trying too hard now. A 2:05 and a 2:08 from the leaders. They're probably their worst laps of the race, bar the pit stop. But Talviti is now well and truly through into the lead. Still the left side of the car. It's fine. I don't know what's going on. The left side of the car is totally clean. Every other body panel is smashed to bits. So when they pull into the victory lane, remember the photo ops to be on the driver's side. Tony Talviti in the number 5 saline now well and truly through into the lead. 2.8 seconds the lead now. We'll go back to Ricciardi, still trying to catch up aggressively over the curbs, but the lead is slipping away. Likewise, Bally. Oh, and he pushes too hard through second Denier and under the bridge slowly. Oh, it's all slipping away for Ricciardi. Through the hairpin, Talviti now out of sight. .2039 from Brown. He's finding pace in the 5th place Ferrari. But too late to catch Bally, apparently. This is the white flag lap. Talviti going down the back straight. Has to feel like he has escaped one disaster after another. First in the collision with Williams, and Williams is ahead of him now. He's slow. Williams appears to be... Is he out of fuel? Oh no! Insult to injury in the closing seconds of the race. Williams pulling aside. Oh no, he's just pulling aside for the leader. Talviti, Tony Talviti, down the hill through the final corner and onto the front straight will take the win. Oh. Williams follows through in what could have been a 2nd place finish, but he's a lap down. Ricciardi down the hill onto the straight, finishes 2nd. Oh, in a wild finish. We'll go back to Gutierrez. He's just now coming up the end of the back straight in the 15 Lister. Through 130R, braking for the chicane. He will hang on to win, or not win, but take home 3rd and finish out the podium. Williams has disconnected. He made it across, but in 6th. Gutierrez happy about that podium finish, as well he should be. He is still very much in contention for the win in this championship. Heading into the final round, Roberto Bali coming home with a solid 4th place after almost catching Gutierrez and having some sort of mishap in the closing minutes. Knocked him back to a gap of about 11 seconds. Brown rounding out the session in 5th. So, yes. Yeah, Bill says in chat, Tony Talviti worked hard for that win, and he did. That's the end of the session. Tony Talviti, your winner for round 6 at Suzuka. Davide Ricciardi coming home 2nd. Johnny Gutierrez 3rd. Roberto Bali 4th. Phil Brown rounding out the top 5. Andrew Williams. Oh, what could have been for Andrew Williams. Setting the pace early, winning the pole. But connection issues took him out of the lead and a lap down. John Vandergeest with an early wreck. Comes home in 7th after dropping out after only 9 laps. And Rob Milliken, struggling with pace early, had a start and park with only 3 laps done, but still finishes in 8th with plenty of points. So there it is. That is the race. Oh my, that was something else. We knew that battle was going to close up, and the last few laps were definitely worth sticking around for. Thanks to everybody who watched. I'm not going to get into too much of a replay, but you can watch it back on this channel, SimRacingOnline. If you like what you saw here, there's still 1 round to go at Laguna Seca to close out the season. There's plenty to find on SimRacingOnline for everybody. We have Assetto Corsa, we have R Factor 2, we have ACC, Automobilista. I think we even have some Project Cars 2 races going on. Thank you, Bill. It was a bit of a challenge with only 8 cars on track and then only 6, but there was plenty of action to follow. As we leave you from Suzuka, 1 round to go. In 2 weeks' time, it will be from Laguna Seca. these monster cars around one of the tightest tracks in North America. We'll see what happens. Hopefully we'll have more cars on track and bring you all the action. We expect and hope that Caitlin Penny will be back in the broadcast booth, so we'll team up for that broadcast. Should be a good one. Make sure to like and subscribe and turn on those notifications because you will want to know when we broadcast that final round. This has been Round 6 from Suzuka. I'm Pasha Paterson, your host. You've been watching Sim Racing Online. Hope you do so again soon. That'll do it. Thanks, everybody.